I'm Jim Anderson. I'm a teaching artist with the Mayhow Arts Alliance. And today I'm going to show you guys how to draw a plant. And we're going to learn the parts of the plant, but we're also going to learn about photosynthesis. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to draw, something like this. It doesn't have to come out looking like this at all, but this is what I'm going to work with. And all you'll need is some kind of a pencil. Some kind of a big eraser is really, really useful. And some kind of a black pen or a dark pen. These Sharpies are pretty good, but whatever you've got is fine. Okay, so I laid this out really lightly in pencil. I do that often when I draw. And so we'll just start from here. Let's start with the stem of the plant. And this is a pepper plant. You might recognize it. They've got a pretty woody stem, a really pretty strong stem when they get going. And with the leaves, if you go from the tip of the leaf, or just draw this line all the way back to the plant, the leaf, the main vein in the leaf becomes the stem of the leaf. So that's that. And then this one. So I kind of just start all the way and then come back like so. Really sketchy lines if you want to. I always do sketchy lines. And then you go over them once you're sure that you've got it the way you want it. And I found the easiest way to do these leaves is to kind of make a C at the bottom first. And I'll be doing a lot of drawing through, which means at a place like this, I make the line go across, but before I ink it, I'm going to erase that little part right there. Okay. And of course, like always, I rotate my page to whatever is the most comfortable for me to draw a particular shape. And that is like super important. I can't even imagine if somebody made me keep my paper in the exact same position all the time, I'd have trouble. Okay, so there's the first two leaves. And then we're going to go up the plant a little bit more. The stem will taper as it goes. It'll get thinner and thinner. And so as far as the parts of the plant, that's the leaves. You probably know all this stuff, and that's the stem. And then we are going to draw the next branch. And this one's kind of cool because it grows from the other side of the stem, but it turns and goes around. It goes around the stem. And I could have just put it growing out that side, but I just thought it looked kind of cool like this. And it lets you practice a little bit of overlapping, which is like super important if you want your stuff to look three-dimensional and kind of realistic. So when I draw, I find that figuring out how something is made is the key to being able to draw it. And sometimes you just have to study it and think about it. And what I notice about these pepper plants is they put out their leaves in groups of 3 most of the time. And so it's like they've got the one leaf in the center, and then they've got another one here. And you'll see this, if you have a big pepper plant, you'll see this repeated over and over again. Now, in reality, these leaves may be twisting different ways, but I decided just to make them all kind of facing you so we don't have to learn, another thing of how to draw twisty leaves, because it's a lot for one lesson. Okay, so. Okay. Now I'm going to start on this one, and again, I have the stem that the leaves grow out of go all the way out to the tip of the farthest leaf. And I'm drawing a kind of a C shape here. It's kind of like a teardrop shape, and they're all going to be basically the same shape. And of course, different types of plants have entirely different shapes of leaves. The pepper plant has a teardrop leaf, and I like it because it's kind of easier than some of the others. So as long as you could remember the teardrop, and learn to draw that, then you'll be okay. And again, I'll just say this over and over again, be easy on yourself. This does not have to be in any way perfect. Just however you can manage to do it. If it's maybe a little bit different or a little bit, you learn something new from it, that's really all that matters. So I hope you learn something from it, but I really hope you don't go, oh no, I don't like my drawing, because, hey, we're learning, right? Okay, now the fun part. There's this thing that is hanging down. So there's this stem hanging straight towards the ground, and there's this little cappy thing. And then there's this oblong thing, and this is a pepper. Now, there's so many different types of peppers. There's a lot of them that have this shape. So you could pretend this is a hot pepper or a sweet pepper. Okay, now this next leaf is the only leaf that is quite a bit bigger than the other leaves. And so I'm imagining that it was like an early leaf, and it's just ahead of the others. And it's just coming up all by itself, right from the stem. Okay, so we're continuing up the plant. And we have one more set of 3 leaves. We're almost done with the leaves. Again, this comes all the way from the tip of the furthest leaf. And it actually becomes part of it, becomes the main vein on the furthest leaf. And then the other ones come off to the side. And this little guy here, you get to use your overlapping again, because it's underneath this other leaf. So you kind of estimate about where you think it would be. And then you could draw through, like I said. It helps to draw through, even if you're going to erase this pencil line later. It can help you position it. So I drew through, and then I'm going to take that away. Do the other side of this nice, strong pepper stalk. And then we have one more of these dangling peppers. Now the pepper is what's called the fruit of the plant. Even though this is a vegetable, they still refer to this as the fruit, and it contains the seeds. So there's seeds inside this, and that's how the plant will reproduce. Okay, now it's going to its very final tip top. It's a whole lot skinnier up here, and it's just 2 leaves this time. And they kind of go spread out really nice and wide from each other. And if I'm going too fast, don't worry about it, because I am going to stop in just a second and let you catch up. And the other one goes right on the other side, and again, that stem goes to the end of the leaf. And now there is just one more thing basically on the plant, and that is these little guys. There's this little ball here, kind of an oval, and one here. And they've got a kind of a wiggly line across them, and a line or 2 like this. And what these are flowers that are still buds. They haven't bloomed yet. So they're white. The bottom part is green, but they're white. And they're just about to bloom. Okay, so you've got flower, leaf, stem, and we'll do the roots in just a minute. But why don't you just take a little break, or just pause this a minute so you could get caught up with drawing these leaves. And again, don't worry about if it's exactly like this. It's okay. Okay, let's go to the roots. And with the roots, you get to kind of fill in. And so we're going to start out with a kind of a very thick root. This is the main root going down. And the roots, as you probably know, are what brings water up into the plant. And it also brings food from the soil, minerals, crushed rock that has minerals that the plant can use. And so got that started, and I think I'll do the main parts and then do the skinnier parts. So another root over here. And this part, you know, you could just have fun. You can make these roots as curvy as you like. It's completely all right. They probably look different with different soils that they grow in. But I'm just kind of like filling in as I go. I'm not having to do any outline here, which is kind of difficult to do outlines on all these wiggly little guys. So now it's possible that if you dug this plant up, it might have actually white roots or light brown roots, but for this, let's just make them black, because then you could really see them. It makes it a whole lot easier to draw them. And just have fun with it. See how I'm just kind of tripping out and just going in all different directions. It's something I like about drawing is things, when you draw things that you really can just twist and turn, there's no really right or wrong. The only thing that would be not wrong exactly, but inaccurate, is if you had roots that were growing straight up on a plant like this. They're pretty much all reaching down or reaching across. So if you want to be like, you know, accurate scientifically, they're going to be reaching down into the ground. Okay. This is another place that we can pause after I get done, and you could spend a couple minutes just having fun with your roots. Add lots and lots of little tiny parts of the roots from the ends, because you see it just gets skinnier and skinnier, and there's just more and more of them. And they just fork and fork and fork, just like a river would fork, or even veins on a leaf. It's kind of something that you see in nature all the time. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple things about inking. One thing I never mention is I always talk about using a black pen, but if you have another dark pen and you want to use it, go ahead. I'm using a dark blue pen now, just because it's a nice pen. So let's, you know, the inking is just like it has been at other times. You just outline the outside generally, like so. And I would start with the tip of the leaf and come all the way back to the plant, to the stem of the plant. And then I would do this part of the leaf, and I would stop and jump over when I get to that stem. And if you forget, you don't stop and jump over, it's not the end of the world. Turn it, this little guy here, doing the same thing. I'm starting really pointy at the end. It's getting thicker and thicker. It's doing a little bit of going under the other leaf. Okay, now leaves have veins in them. And there's a couple ways you could do this. You could do the veins, like draw every single vein like I did with this one here. I did all of these veins, but you really don't have to do that. If you'd rather just suggest the veins, which is perfectly fine, you can do that. Basically, the veins, they go up like so, but you can just make little veins, or you could make just veins on one side if you want to, or you could use a lost and found line. I'll do that with this one, just kind of a lost and found line. Or you could do what I did on this one, which I found kind of fun, was to just make it more of a sort of a decorative, you know. If you looked at a leaf, you might not necessarily see every single little vein like I'm drawing it right now. But it's not very difficult, so it's kind of, I find it kind of fun. I like to do all the veins on one side. I just think the drawing itself looks kind of cool like this, but it's just totally optional. And then the other side, they go up. And it's one of those things where it's just a whole lot of repetition. So if you get bored with it, then I would say leave it aside for a minute, you know, because it looks good if you do it kind of carefully and you just have fun with it. If it's like, oh my God, these leaves, these lines, there's just too many of them, I'm going crazy. Don't go crazy. Take a break from it, or even leave them out entirely. I mean, you don't even actually need these, but I just want to show you how to do them. Okay, while you're inking your drawing, I'm going to just talk a little bit about photosynthesis. I'm not going to go real deep into it, but I am going to use a few words that you don't know. So photosynthesis, it's the process where green plants use sunlight to make their own food. Plants are called producers because they actually make their own food. Us animals, we don't make our own food. I mean, we cook our own food, but we don't make it. They make it, and they make it because they use the sunlight, and they use carbon dioxide, which is a gas that's in the air. It's what we breathe out. Like right now, I just breathed out carbon dioxide. All animals do that. And it also takes water up through its roots, and the water goes all throughout the plant. So there's water in here, and the leaves, they've got these tiny little holes on the backs of them called stomatas. And with those little tiny holes, it sucks in that gas of carbon dioxide. So it's got water in the leaf, and it's got carbon dioxide in the leaf, and then the sunlight comes in, and the leaves have these special cells called chloroplasts in them. They all have these, and they've got something called chlorophyll, which you may have heard of. Like if you fall down in your jeans on the grass and you get up and it's all green, that's chlorophyll. And they do this magical little thing where they take CO2, they take oxygen, they take the sunlight, they mix them all together, and they make something else out of them. And when they do that, they release oxygen back into the air, which we need to breathe. Without plants doing photosynthesis, we could not live on this planet. And they take what's left of the CO2 and what's left of the water, and they put them together and they make something called sugar. Sometimes it's called glucose. And they use the glucose to build themselves. And they store it. They store it in their fruits. And that's why animals like to eat the fruits, because they're sugary and they taste good. And we like to eat fruit. And that's where the seeds are. So that's one reason they do it. They also store it in the roots. So like carrots are really sweet. It's because they've got this glucose, sugar that the plant made, and it's being stored in there. Okay, so basically all plants do photosynthesis. Without photosynthesis, there would be no life on Earth. Without oxygen, we couldn't live. And you know, we help the plants, I guess, because we breathe out carbon dioxide, and that's what they use to make their sugar. So it's just this kind of incredible, magical system that we take for granted, but it's amazing. It's what we need for life. The other thing that happens with the sugar, or the glucose, is it goes down into the roots, and some of it leaks out. So imagine these roots down in the dirt, and there's like a little bit of sugary stuff leaking out all over the place on purpose. And there is a million little teensy things that you cannot see that love that sugar, and so they all live right around these roots. So I kind of like put all these tiny dots. This is kind of like pointillism. I put these tiny dots just to kind of represent all the little different creatures. Some of them are big, and some of them are tiny, but most of them are so tiny you cannot see them without a microscope. And there's a lot of stickiness going on. And that's really important because since it's sticky, the little bits of soil, they stick together. And I talked about this before. You end up with instead of just little specks of soil, you've got these little clumps of soil. And since you've got clumps of soil, air and water can get down to the plant and make it healthy. So anyway, that's photosynthesis. And it's something that you'll learn a lot more about in the future. If you want to know more, go online, and there's all kinds of stuff about it, little films, all kinds of cool stuff. So enjoy your pepper plant, and I hope you had fun. Okay, thanks for drawing with me today. Like I mentioned earlier, you can color this. It's incredibly easy to color. And all I used to color this particular version here was an orange, a red, a yellow, and a green. I used green and yellow on the leaves. You could also use a little bit of blue on the leaves, like if you're doing some kind of a more shaded area, throw in a little blue on top of the green and yellow. Layer the colors. On the peppers, for this one I used orange and red, and for this one here I used yellow and orange. For the roots, I pretty much used black. And then I kind of did this, you know, these little crumbly things because I'm so into the different sizes of soil particles. And I did these little specky things here to make it look kind of like rasta roots. And once again, do not worry if your picture isn't this detailed or whatever. That's okay. Just have fun with it. You know, it could be crazy looking, but it could still tell you something. And these pictures are for having fun, but they're also for helping you remember what I think are some pretty cool, pretty important things. Thank you.